In Gatlinburg, they were assessing Chile. In ISD 728, we assess proficiency. We evaluate our students' knowledge and skills.
So how will we know if they are learning? Rick Stiggins says, "You can enhance or destroy students' desire to succeed in school more quickly and permanently through your use of assessment than with any other tool you have at your disposal." Let's continue our common language development now with assessments. It is crucial to distinguish within the learning process the difference between formative assessment and summative assessment. Like a pre-assessment, a formative assessment is used for learning, while a summative assessment is used to measure of learning. The formative assessment, as you can see in this visual, is used by both the teacher and student to evaluate how to help the student learn more, either to achieve mastery of knowledge or skill, or to enrich and extend the knowledge or skill. With a summative assessment on the left, all learning is complete at a particular point in time. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to see how this truly can become a circle. So this assessment process starts with the end in mind. Teachers must determine the target prior to the instruction. A learning progression is laid out for all students and begins with the pre-assessment. The purpose of the first formative pre-assessment is to determine what students know about a topic before it is taught. This allows the instruction to be differentiated. More on this later. This assessment is formative as it is directly informing the teacher about the student's needs and what the teacher needs to do to help those needs. Pre-assessments will help the teacher flex groups and really be able to find out what the student knows. Formative assessment is a planned process in which assessment, elicited evidence of student status, is used by teachers to adjust their ongoing instruction procedures or by students to adjust their current learning tactics. It's really both of these things. This type of assessment is not about accountability, but rather it truly is, as it says here, about getting better. Dylan William in Ed Leadership 2007-2008 talked about when implemented well, formative assessment can really effectively double the speed of the learning. This is a really important statistic to keep in your mind and think about as you move forward through your teaching and their learning process. So formative assessments, as we said, are for learning that happens while the learning is still underway. These are assessments that are conducted throughout the teaching and learning. These are pieces that are planned steps along the way. They provide students, as I said, with the feedback that they can use, that they can take ownership of their learning as they go through the process. It helps them to see and feel how they truly are in control of the journey, that they are the ones that this is all about. The teachers become facilitators rather than presenters. Formative assessments refers to what happens on a daily basis in the classroom. They provide the teachers with that information, the specific areas towards those learning targets that help with the instruction. A key piece for richer information is some reflection time during this. The student can think about and explain their ideas, breaking down the tasks and in reinforcing those objectives that the teacher wants to achieve. It's this ongoing assessment, as I said, that provides the continual feedback between the teacher and the learner. It helps the students progress truly over time. So here's a visual then to take a look at to help us consider and understand really how formative assessments work in the classroom. And what I mean by that is you'll notice now as we move into summative assessments how they overlap with one another. Take a moment now and think about some formative assessments that you currently do within your classroom. Did you have some of these? How about some others? In your packet, we have information that provides you with numerous formative assessments that can be done. Teaching and learning members can also help you with how to really make formative assessment a part of your classroom. Learning logs, exit cards, products like a project or a paper, quizzes, all of these can be formative assessments and probably are currently being done within your practice. It is actually practice where mistakes should happen, where no penalty to the student's grade can occur within that learning process. That truly makes this valuable, and as we said at the beginning, how when Dylan and William recommends doing formative assessment, that they effectively double the speed of the learning. How about summative assessment? A summative assessment or an evaluation is designed to provide information to make judgments about student achievement at the end of a sequence of instruction, or really it's about time. This is a means to determine a student's mastery or understanding of information, skills, concepts, or processes. Let's go back to our visual. Here we have the formative and again the summative overlapping, and we're going to talk about how you think related to what you do in the classroom, they are going to be similar to one another. Again, take a minute to think about some summative assessments that you do in your class. Do you think again about the quiz or the paper? Those were evaluated, those were graded, and that was the purpose. Some examples, again here listed, are working to achieve those targets that you began with within the learning process. Whether it's knowledge, it's a performance or skill, reasoning, a product, we're at a marking period. The learning progression, we are stopping it at the moment, and now we're evaluating how that all works. We use our rubrics, we reflect, we do the things within our classrooms to help truly be able to make sure that our students are really learning what we intended for them to learn. We'll come back again one more time to this, but one last bit of information is then what we call the common assessment. A common assessment is any assessment given by 2 or more instructors with the intention of collaboratively examining the results, either for the shared learning, the instructional planning for the individual students, or the curriculum instruction and or assessment modifications. These are open, often teacher created, they're owned to provide by those teachers and have immediate feedback to both the teacher and the student. This could be the common assessment could be either a formative one or a summative one. So here's that visual. Here is that overlap. It surrounds both the formative and summative assessments because this is about student learning. It's the purpose. How are we using that information? Are we evaluating? Are we using it to change our instruction? Are we doing both of that? This is truly about learning, and that's where we tie into our PLC. The PLC's purpose is to work to remove interpretation of standards and grading. It's to offer interventions. It's to help students receive information that allows them to truly move forward in their learning process as a whole. So one last slide. Here we have now the visual that we started with. Let's again consider this information, but now let's look at it in a new light. It is truly the assessment instruction process. It is a circle because it's continuous. Whether it's from the formative assessment at the very beginning, where we're finding out information, building off that knowledge. A formative assessment where we're checking to see that they understand what is being taught and making sure that they have learned it with the summative assessment. But again, then we move around and continue this idea because that summative assessment may be a marking period and we gather some grades, but we now use that information to go back and help our students with their instruction. An easy example of this would be a student with writing. We assign a paper, we evaluate it, and we put a grade in the grade book. But then we take that information and we continue in a new assignment to work off of helping that student become a better writer. Take a moment now to consider these things. What do you think? It's a time now for you to reflect before we move on and build even more information off of this process.